Let me tell you something about resorts that you'll never see in the brochures. I used to work at one, the kind with palm trees, cocktails, and smiles that look straight out of a travel magazine. But behind those smiles, there's a side of resort life that guests never see. If you've ever stayed at an all-inclusive, a luxury resort, or even a family holiday destination, this is what's really going on. So before you book your next vacation, listen closely, because once you know these 9 secrets, you'll never look at resorts the same way again. 1. The all-inclusive isn't really all-inclusive, people. Love the phrase all-inclusive. It sounds magical, like you're entering a world where your wallet doesn't matter anymore. You eat what you want, drink what you want, swim where you want, and never have to think about money. I used to believe that too, before I worked at one. But behind the buffet tables and fancy brochures, the truth is a lot less generous than it seems. Let's start with the drinks, because that's the easiest illusion to spot once you know what to look for. Guests always assume they're sipping on premium spirits, but in most cases, they're not. We were trained to pour the cheap local liquor into recognizable brand bottles. Guests would order a Jack and Coke, but the Jack was usually a low-cost whiskey from a nearby supplier. And 99% of guests couldn't tell the difference once it was drowned in cola and ice. Then there's the food. Those buffets that seem endless? They're a science of illusion. Big platters, bright colors, massive serving spoons, all designed to make the spread look abundant. But most of it's cheap fillers: pasta, rice, and bread. The expensive stuff like seafood or steak is rationed or rotated. When guests started catching on that the shrimp disappeared too early, management told us to mix them into pasta dishes so it looked generous but cost less. And those so-called included activities, the snorkeling, the complimentary massage, or the romantic beach dinner, they usually come with a catch. You'd have to sit through a timeshare presentation, attend a sales event, or upgrade your package. And here's the sneaky part. Staff are trained to make you feel like you're missing out if you don't. I once watched a guest pay $180 for a private cabana that was literally just a regular beach chair behind a rope. So when you see all-inclusive, just remember, it doesn't mean everything's included. It means enough is included to make you feel like it is. The rest, you'll end up paying for it. One small upgrade at a time. 2. Staff know everything about you before you even arrive. This one shocks people the most. When you book your stay, you think it's just your name, date, and maybe your dietary preferences. But resorts build what they call guest profiles. And believe me, some of them are detailed enough to make you uncomfortable. I worked in guest relations for a while, and we had a system that stored every bit of information from your previous visits. Not just your room preferences, but your complaints, your tipping habits, even the tone of your emails. If you once asked for extra towels or complained that your bed was too hard, it went into your file. So when you returned, the staff would be miraculously attentive to those exact details. It made guests feel special, but in reality, it was just data. We also tracked spending behavior. If a guest consistently tipped well, we'd quietly mark them as a preferred guest. That meant their minibar got refilled faster, their calls got answered first, and their reservations always fit in, even when we were fully booked. But if someone didn't tip or was rude, their requests could mysteriously take longer. And here's something few guests ever realize. Resorts sometimes share guest profiles with sister properties. So if you stayed at one resort in the chain and left a bad impression, the next one you visit already knows. You might not get that ocean view upgrade, no matter how polite you are this time. It's like a hospitality version of a credit score. Your invisible reputation follows you wherever you go. And yes, we even knew about guests before they arrived. Travel agents, social media, and booking notes often gave us a sense of who we were dealing with. One manager would literally look people up on Facebook to see what kind of lifestyle they had. The goal was to tailor their stay, or to prepare for the ones who might cause trouble. So next time someone greets you at check-in with, "Welcome back, Mr. Smith. How was your last visit?" Just know they're not psychic. They've been reading your file. 3. The upgrades are a psychological game. Everyone loves getting an upgrade. It makes you feel noticed, valued, like you lucked into something special. But behind that complimentary ocean view or suite upgrade is one of the resort industry's oldest tricks. Here's how it actually works. Resorts routinely oversell certain room categories, expecting a percentage of cancellations or no-shows. When everyone shows up, they suddenly have too many bookings. To fix it, they upgrade some guests, not out of generosity, but necessity. They're managing a numbers problem, not rewarding loyalty. But here's where it gets really clever. Staff are trained to make the upgrade feel like a gift. We'd lower our voices, glance around, and say, "We actually have a special room available today. I'll see what I can do for you." Guests would light up, thinking they'd been handpicked. We knew that once they felt lucky, they were more likely to spend. They'd tip more, book spa treatments, and brag to friends. Free advertising for the resort. And sometimes upgrades are used as bait. We'd offer you a free upgrade this time if you agreed to sign up for a preferred guest program or attend a property tour. The guest thinks, "Wow, I got a free suite," not realizing they just gave up an hour of their vacation for a sales pitch. One time, I watched a couple gush about their ocean view suite, the one we specially upgraded them to. The truth? It was the last available room we couldn't sell because the air conditioning was faulty. They still tipped the front desk $50 out of gratitude. That's the brilliance of resort psychology. Even when you're being strategically moved around for operational convenience, it's framed as a favor to you. 4. Staff are trained to make you spend without realizing it. Everything, and I mean everything, at a resort is designed to make you open your wallet without noticing. From the music, to the lighting, to the way staff talk, it's all intentional. We were taught to use suggestive selling without sounding pushy. For example, when handing guests their welcome drink, we'd say, "Would you like me to reserve you a table at our romantic beach dinner tonight? It's filling up fast." That one line triggered FOMO, fear of missing out. And before they knew it, they were paying $120 for something they hadn't even planned to do. At the bar, bartenders were told to pour lightly on alcohol and heavily on mixers, so guests would keep ordering. Some resorts even use branded souvenir glasses that make drinks look bigger than they are. Guests think they're getting more. In reality, they're getting less and spending more. Then there's the spa. Oh, the spa. Staff get commissions for every booking they refer, so they'll innocently ask, "Have you tried our stress release massage yet?" It's amazing after a long flight. Guests feel personally cared for, but that small nudge adds hundreds to their final bill. Even the physical layout of the resort is a strategy. Shops and spas are placed on the main paths between the pool and the restaurants, so you're constantly walking past them. The gift shops are intentionally over air conditioned, so they feel like an oasis on a hot day. And once you step inside, you're buying sunscreen or overpriced souvenirs just to justify the visit. The truth is, the resort doesn't want you to feel like you're spending. They want you to feel like you're rewarding yourself. And by the time you check out, you're smiling at the memory, right up until you see the total charge on your credit card. 5. Rooms aren't always as clean as they look. Now here's one that'll make you think twice about throwing yourself onto that fresh-looking bed. Resort rooms look spotless, but during peak season, appearances can be deceiving. Housekeepers often have to clean 15 to 20 rooms a day, sometimes more. And management doesn't care about perfection. They care about speed. We had literal timers running on our cleaning staff. If someone took too long on a room, a supervisor would show up to rush them along. That means shortcuts, lots of them. Bed linens are supposed to be changed after every checkout, but I've seen situations where if a bed looked clean, staff were told to just smooth it out and spray fabric freshener. Same goes for pillowcases. And yes, if you see a beautifully folded towel animal on your bed, it doesn't always mean the sheets underneath are fresh. Remote controls, light switches, phones, they're rarely disinfected. During busy weeks, some rooms get wiped with the same cloths used for the bathroom counters. It's not out of laziness. It's survival under time pressure. Then there's the mini fridge. Guests assume it's restocked daily but often, half-used bottles are just wiped and rearranged. I once saw a half-drunk soda poured into another bottle so it looked full again. Management would rather risk that than have inventory go missing. And if you've ever wondered how every room smells the same, that's chemical masking. Resorts use industrial-strength fragrance sprays to hide humidity, mold, or leftover odors. The smell of fresh linen isn't coming from the sheets, it's coming from a can. The truth is, 95% of resort rooms look immaculate. But if you saw what happens in the 10 minutes before you check in, the frantic rushing, the cutting of corners, you'd probably pack a can of disinfectant wipes next time you travel. 6. Food waste is a hidden disaster. If there's one thing guests never see, and management never wants them to, it's what happens to the food after the buffet closes. I'll be honest. When I first started working at the resort, I was shocked. I thought, surely they donate the leftovers to local shelters, right? Nope. Almost none of it is saved. Most of it is quietly thrown out. Every night after dinner, we'd wheel massive trays of untouched food back to the kitchen, and I'm talking mountains of food. Entire platters of seafood, untouched desserts, fresh bread, trays of lasagna, trays of fruit that looked perfect just an hour ago. Guests filled their plates, took a few bites, and walked away. Multiply that by hundreds of guests, and by the end of each night, we were dumping hundreds of kilograms of perfectly good food into bins. I remember one night during a busy holiday week. The buffet theme was Mediterranean night. We had grilled octopus, lamb kebabs, seafood paella, all the fancy stuff. After closing, we started cleaning up. The head chef came by, looked at a full tray of uneaten prawns, sighed, and said, "Toss it." I asked if we could refrigerate it for staff meals or breakfast omelets. He said, "No. Once it's been on the buffet, it's contaminated." So we threw away enough food to feed 50 people every single night. And it wasn't just the waste. Sometimes recycling food was an unspoken policy. If pastries weren't eaten at breakfast, they got brushed off, reheated, and served at afternoon tea. The grilled chicken from the dinner buffet would magically become chicken salad the next day. We even had a joke among staff. Today's chef's special is last night's leftovers in disguise. It's not that staff wanted to deceive guests. It was about cost control. Food waste is one of the biggest expenses for resorts, and reusing ingredients saves money. But guests would be horrified if they knew how often something they were served wasn't freshly made that morning. The irony? Resorts brag about sustainability in their brochures. They'll show pictures of turtles and talk about eco-initiatives. Yet behind the scenes, the dumpsters overflow with food every single night. The smell in the back alley after a buffet cleanup was enough to make your stomach turn. And here's something that sticks with me even now. Some of the local kitchen staff came from poor areas nearby. They'd quietly take discarded food in plastic bags to bring home to their families, risking their jobs if caught. The same resort that threw away perfectly good meals every night had strict rules against staff taking leftovers. That's the side of paradise no one ever photographs. 7. The staff smiles hide. Real struggles guests see cheerful faces, glowing skin, polite greetings, constant enthusiasm. But those smiles, they're often masks hiding exhaustion and financial stress. When I worked at the resort, I used to think the hardest part of the job would be the heat or the hours. Turns out, it was pretending to be cheerful no matter what. Most resort workers live in dorms on site or in nearby staff villages. I shared a tiny room with 3 others. No air conditioning, 1 small fan, and paper-thin walls. We worked 10 to 12-hour shifts, sometimes 6 or 7 days straight. During high season, you didn't dare call in sick. Someone else would take your position permanently. Pay? Barely enough to survive. In many resorts, base salaries are so low that tips make up most of your income. But not everyone gets them. Housekeepers, kitchen staff, gardeners, they often see none of the tipping money that bartenders and servers get daily. And even then, Tips aren't always fair. Some resorts pool them and redistribute, but management takes a cut first. We once calculated that out of every $100 in tips guests left, maybe $60 reached the staff. Yet we were trained to smile, to always smile. Guests don't pay to see your bad day, management would say. They pay for paradise. So we smiled through headaches, sore feet, arguments, even grief. I once saw a woman at the front desk force a cheerful, "Good morning," less than an hour after she got a call that her father had passed away back home. That's how strict the image control was. Then there's the hierarchy. Managers, especially foreign ones, often treated local workers like background props. I've seen staff yelled at for standing too close to guests or for not greeting them with enough enthusiasm. We even had scripts, literally written phrases we had to memorize, like, "Good evening, Mr. Smith. Welcome back to paradise." We were told to use their names as often as possible because it creates emotional connection. It also makes it harder for guests to complain when they feel seen personally. Still, there were good guests, the ones who tipped fairly, treated us kindly, and said thank you like they meant it. Those people made the long days feel worth it. But there were also guests who snapped fingers, barked orders, and left without a glance. You learn to read people fast. By the time most of us left the resort, we were burnt out but professional, smiling all the way to the exit. So next time you see that bright smile and have a wonderful evening, remember, behind that grin might be someone running on 3 hours of sleep, trying to keep their job by pretending everything's perfect. 8. What you say and do in your room might not be private. This one creeps people out the most. And honestly, it should. Resort rooms feel private, but they're anything but. Between maintenance checks, cleaning routines, and quiet security surveillance, there's a lot happening that guests never realize. Let's start with housekeeping. They don't just tidy up, they observe. We were told to report anything that looked suspicious: extra guests, strong smells, valuables left out, arguments, or anything unusual. Management called it guest safety, but it was really about liability. If a guest made a mess or broke something, the resort wanted to know immediately. Once I was cleaning a suite and found several passports spread across the bed that didn't match the guests staying there. I reported it. Turns out the guy was running a side hustle arranging cash under the table tours for other tourists. He was quietly asked to leave, but it showed me just how closely we were expected to watch. Then there's the security team. Most resorts have surveillance cameras everywhere except inside rooms and bathrooms. But don't think that means you're completely private. Security staff often review footage to track guest movement. They know who stays out late, who's sneaking into whose room, who's drunk at the pool after hours. Even maintenance visits aren't as innocent as they seem. Sometimes staff are sent into rooms under the pretense of checking air conditioning or fixing lights, but really management just wanted eyes inside. I've seen supervisors quietly peek around to check if guests were smoking indoors or damaging furniture. And the gossip? Oh, it's relentless. Housekeepers talk about everything. They know which couples argue, which rooms smell like weed, which guests are messy, and who leaves weird items behind. We once had a celebrity guest who made a huge fuss about privacy, yet every cleaner in the building knew exactly what brand of underwear he wore by the end of the week. The truth is, resorts rely on information. The more they know about guests, the more they can prevent problems or upsell services. But it comes at a cost: your privacy. If you ever wonder whether staff can tell what kind of person you are based on your room, trust me, they already have. 9. Paradise can be more fake than you think. Here's the grand illusion, the one that keeps the resort machine running. Everything you see, hear, smell, and experience is designed to make you believe you're in paradise. But once you've worked behind the curtain, it's impossible to see it the same way again. Every morning before sunrise, workers walk the beaches to clean up trash that washed ashore overnight. Bottles, plastic, even dead fish. They rake the sand to look perfectly untouched before guests wake up. You'd think the beaches were naturally pristine, but it's a daily performance. The pools are another illusion. The water looks crystal clear, but that's mostly from heavy chemical treatment. I remember the maintenance team joking that if guests knew how much chlorine was in there, no one would swim. When filters break or pumps fail, instead of closing the pool, staff pour in extra chemicals and hope no one notices. Even the sunsets are curated. I'm not kidding. Management planned activities around Instagram moments. They'd schedule happy hour right when the light hit the water, just right. The music was timed, the lights dimmed, and staff were told to circulate with drinks to encourage people to post photos online. Guests sell paradise better than ads do, one marketing manager told us. And the wildlife, oh, the friendly wildlife that always seems to show up at the right time, often lured there on purpose. The colorful parrots near the breakfast area, they were fed fruit daily to hang around. The wild iguanas near the bar, same thing. Even the tropical flowers are swapped out constantly so they always look fresh for photos. Behind the curtain, it's chaos. Staff running, machines breaking down, arguments over schedules, shortages in supplies. But the front stage experience stays perfect. The moment a guest steps out of sight, someone sighs, drops the smile, and rushes to the next crisis. It's show business, not hospitality. I'll never forget one night when a storm hit out of nowhere. Wind ripped through the outdoor dining area, flipping tables and chairs, rain pouring sideways. Guests were rushed indoors, and as soon as the storm passed, management demanded the place be photo ready by sunrise. By 5 a.m., we'd dried the cushions, replaced broken lights, and even spread fake sand to cover puddles. When guests came out for breakfast, they said, "Wow, it's amazing how untouched everything looks." That's the illusion. Perfection at any cost. So, yes, paradise exists, but at a resort, it's carefully built every single day. Behind every sunset view, every poolside smile, every Instagram photo, there's a team of exhausted workers making sure you believe in the magic.